Are we on assassination number 10? I don't know. It's hard to count anymore, but we're going to go over what happened this last weekend with the shooting at the White House. We don't have all the details yet. There are people who are making claims. It's this transgender person. It's this mentally ill person. It's this or that. Let's sort through what we do know, and let's also start to look at, more importantly, why this is happening in the West. And we're going to look at the death of the West and how the West has ultimately divested itself from what made it good. And I mean that not just in a qualitative perspective, but in a moral perspective as well. So let's go ahead and dive into that. Today, we're going to get into some shenanigans with Steve, some outdoor stuff, song review, and some screw tape letters. So stay around for all of it. John Arthur Fiala here for Further Every Day, sitting in the chair of philosophy. I'm joined with Steve on the panel. How's it going?
Man, it is going fantastic, John Arthur. Looking forward to be majorly
politically
incorrect today with today's topic. So stay tuned to. Excuse me, my voice a little messed up, but I'll still be politically incorrect.
Steve's dying over here. You might have to come over here, Mr. Producer. We got Ry, the producer guy, in the producer's chair. How's it going?
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Doing all right. I think Steve's got to hack up a frog, and then we're ready to go.
You want me to come over there on camera today? Is that what you said?
I think you're going to have to do like the diaphragmatic thrust. You see, I actually do a lot of training with first responders. We're not allowed to call it the Heimlich maneuver anymore because people were grabbing the chest and going straight up and in, breaking the xiphoid process, and the person drowned in their own blood. You're supposed to go down like way down low. You're supposed to go with the diaphragm. Go figure, not on the breastbone. If you go to the breastbone, you got to go high. So anyway, we will have to do the diaphragmatic thrust. That's your little bit of CPR training.
The Heimlich maneuver is now the diaphragmatic thrust.
It's always been the diaphragmatic thrust, but unfortunately the Heimlich family had to remove their name because people were doing it right here instead of up here or down here. And right here, you can break some bones and cut the heart in half. So
good to know.
That's why you don't practice the diaphragmatic thrust on buddies.
The more you know with John Arthur.
So everyone's wondering on audio what the heck's happening. Let's go ahead and pull it all in. This last Saturday, we saw the White House put out this report, cut number 1, Mr. Producer. It is very unfortunate that we're living in these times, but this is indeed what we are seeing. There were shots fired at the White House shortly after 6 p.m. Saturday. An individual in the area of 17th Street and Pennsylvania Avenue pulled a weapon from his bag and began firing. Secret Service police returned fire, striking the suspect, who was transported to an area hospital where he was pronounced deceased. During the shooting, one bystander was also struck by gunfire, being prayer for the family. No injuries were sustained by officers. The president was in the White House during the incident. However, no protectees or operations were impacted. The incident remains under investigation, and additional information will be released as it becomes available. Guys, this is a perfect example of we need to be careful what we put out there. I was looking for information on the shooter, and at first it was supposedly this trans kid, and then it was something else, and then it was something else. People put stuff out there for clicks on the left and on the right. Please be careful in what you traffic. We are going to go with what we understand right now and say that we don't know everything. But best as we can understand at the moment, it was a fellow by the name of Nasir Best. And we've got that cut right here. Potentially assassination attempt number 10. And this is from Nick Soder's X. If you're on audio, I'll read it to you. Breaking: the White House shooter has been identified as 21-year-old Nasir Best. Best, quote unquote, is a misleading last name, had previously attempted to infiltrate the White House multiple times as per United States Secret Service. He is now in the coroner's office in a bag. Good riddance. And so you can actually see on that image there the crosswalk where he came in, and you could see in regards to the White House. People were asking, how did he get in the White House? He did not. Thank you, Mr. Producer. He got close. He got in close enough within sight range, and he was interdicted by the Secret Service. I do think that there could be a little bit more higher level of awareness and alertness, because this is happening way too often for comfort. And it is a very, very concerning thing that someone can get this close to the president. Here's video from one of the tents live as it happened. So you can see the chaos and the pandemonium as Secret Service is running back and forth.
Panic outside the White House. We're following this breaking news. Possible shots fired near our nation's capital at the White House. We have News Nation's Chris Flanagan. We just heard from him. He was shoved off the property and his live shot position to go inside the White House press briefing room towards safety at the direction of those Secret Service officers who you just heard from. Chris, give us an update. Where do things stand? What's happening right now in the briefing room?
So, Alex, we are still in lockdown in the briefing room. We have not been have not given all clear to leave. We still see Secret Service out on the lawn, the north lawn here of the White House. They're still out there. We are inside. Again, we heard about 25 or 30 rapid, what sounded like gunshots right after the 6 o'clock Eastern time hour, right after we did our live shot with you for News Nation and Secret Service. They just hurried everybody into the press briefing room, getting us in here as quickly as possible, yelling, shots fired, get down, get into the press briefing room. They're looking live here at the north lawn of the White House. And just a perspective, we were standing during our live shots, and you can see those lights over there. You see the green awning, green tents.
Yes.
There we go. That's where we do our live shots. That's on the north side of the White House. If you're on the road, per se, facing the White House, is to the right side. Maybe we're 75, 80 yards.
And Chris, that's a powerful visual just right there. Look at all those lights from reporter live shots still on. It really speaks to just how, at a moment's notice, everything just stopped. You guys were forced to leave your cameras, leave your lights and everything behind just to flee to safety.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Mr. Producer. The current consensus and understanding right now is that Nasir Best believed himself to be Jesus Christ and had attempted to come into the White House multiple times. Don't know yet if this is assassination attempt number 10, if it was a legitimate, politically motivated, or if it's suicide by cop. Don't know just yet. Given the body of evidence, it looks like it's probably another hysteric who's been driven to madness by the mainstream media. Speaking of which, I think it's this time, and you guys are saying 10. Is this number 10? I thought we were on maybe number 4. That's a good question, Ryan. I'm glad you asked. Let's go ahead and pull up the next cut, because I actually want to count these out. Starting in 2016, you actually have a UK man, a British national, arrested at a Trump rally. He was planning to kill the president. In 2018, you have a North Dakota man attempt to steal a forklift. I think he watched too many James Bond movies. He was going to try to impale or flip the limo that the president was in the motorcade. Did you ever watch that movie? I forget it. I think was it Live and Let Die, where they had no, it was another one where they impaled the guy with the forklift, and that the bad guy got run over by it. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So
that was a different one.
I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
It was one of those off-brand Bond actors. I can't remember. I enjoyed it.
Daniel
Someone in the
Craig,
comment
you
section.
mean?
No,
Or-
it was long. Daniel Craig is not a Bond actor. Okay, I'm just gonna
You
say.
said off-brand, and my mind went to Daniel Craig because I know
way
you don't like
off-brand.
Daniel Craig's Bond.
But what I would say is watching too many movies. It's unfortunate. So someone tell me in the comment section if you know which Bond movie that is. It was in the lab, and the guy gets burst through with the forklift. I think that's actually probably what this guy was imagining in his mind, or at least at minimum, he said he was hoping to at least flip over the limo and then crush the president. So this is in 2018. Next one, Mr. Producer. If you count this, okay, this would be the next one. Yep. In 2020, someone attempted to send, it's actually a dual citizen, French-Canadian, attempted to send the president ricin. Actually, I believe they did succeed, and it was interdicted. So they're doing the dust in the mail, attempting to kill the United States president. Then, of course, you guys will remember Thomas Crooks, and he was, again, very, very nearly successful. He was the closest one in 2024 who just nicked the president's ear by an act of God. President Trump looked to the side. And that one has still not been explained, by the way. I would like more data on that. I am as interested in that as I am in the Epstein files, which is highly. I would like to know more about this. Thomas Crooks. He appears to have ties to the deep state. It looks as though he potentially was allegedly, due to cell geo-tracking data, he was multiple times on federal shooting ranges, FBI and CIA co-located shooting ranges before his attempted assassination of the president. We still do not know why, and we have no explanation yet on how that all ties together. I am, like I said, I'm very interested in finding out more about Epstein. I am just as much or more interested in who was behind Crooks. How did he get such a favorable position? Ryan Ruth is the next one in memory. And just shortly, a couple months after, he went on the golf course at Mar-a-Lago, fully intending to kill the president. And as of 2026 February, he was sentenced to life in prison. I'm not sure if that is enough. I feel like we could do a lot better on that. However, I'd push for the death penalty, because the more you tell people that they can do this, the more that you allow this into the public zeitgeist, the more of it you will breed.
And that's very true, John Arthur, because one of the things we have that's also going on is we have so many public figures
calling for
this type of thing
over and over again.
And then you've got citizens that are listening to public figures that have been elected by the citizenry calling for these types of things or for actions of some kind against a president, and they think it's okay to do this.
It shouldn't be. Their speech is absolute. What you do with that free speech is not absolute. I cannot walk up to a 4-year-old and say obscene things that are inappropriate for a 4-year-old. I have violated that 4-year-old's rights. I have, if I describe something graphic to a child, I should be held liable. That is something most people most libertarians, and then again, most conservatives, who I think have been infected by the libertarian virus. Again, I've said many times, I'm a recovering libertarian. I believe that it is a promise that just never comes true. It always promises that you can live in this secularist society without really necessarily giving the due that God deserves. We are supposed to conserve liberty under Christ. I think that's the only way that this society can survive. But yeah, a lot of libertarians think that you can just promote vulgarity, profanity, nudity without it affecting children. It does. It does. And you'd be scared to live in the founding fathers' reality. In the 1800s, as late as the 1880s, there were blasphemy cases prosecuted all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's decision on one blasphemy case was this man was printing libelous slander against the Holy Bible. And the Supreme Court's decision was, you cannot put into print libel and defamation to the core of our nation's morality. And because you will affect children with what you say, because you are in a place of responsibility, you are negatively affecting the youth. You have an effect. You are causing harm. It's not the speech. It's the harm that you are doing with the speech. You are free to say whatever you like. You are free to believe whatever you like. You're free to think whatever you like. But you need to be careful what you do to other people. As Mr. Producer says, you can't yell fire in a crowded building. You can, but in doing so, when there's no fire, you have called to action. You have done something else as well. You're always free to yell fire in a crowded building. If there's a fire,
right,
you're free to do that. If there's not, and you're doing it to cause a negative outcome, there is something else linked to that speech. And these people who are constantly calling for the president's assassination, I think we do need to really look at that seriously, and we need to look at that as some sort of insurgence or insurrection that has to be dealt with because it is getting to a fever pitch. You cannot regulate free speech, but it is legal, it is lawful to regulate calls to action and calls to violence that are negative. And if we don't do it, they will. And if we don't do it, they will, and they do. So continuing on, next cut, Mr. Producer, we're going to assassination attempt number 6. At least these are the ones that I have in my memory. You guys help me if I miss any. Justice Department announces murder for hire and related charges against IRGC asset and 2 local operatives. This is November 8th, 2024. Leading up to the last election, guys. Iranian asset Farhad Shakir employed multiple associations in the New York City area to surveil and murder a U.S. citizen of Iranian origin who had publicly opposed the Iranian government. Shakir was tasked by the Iranian regime with surveilling and plotting to assassinate President-elect Donald Trump. Guys, this is why we're going after Iran. And this is one more knife in the body. This is one more hole in the bottom of the boat. This is why we're going after Iran, because of multiple assassination attempts on the president, because Iran's a proxy state for China. And if we can clear the Strait of Hormuz, President Trump will actually succeed in codifying a long-term solution into the international architecture and landscape, where when he leaves, some of the things that he's done will be preserved longer than they would have otherwise. I'm not going to say for any amount of indefinite nature. That is not the nature of politics. We have to elect good people afterward. But Iran has been sending proxies with a design and desire to kill the president. The next one, attempt number 7 on the record. Just a quick review of history. Armed man shot and killed at Mar-a-Lago. Remember this? February 23rd, 2026, this year.
Yes.
They confronted a white male carrying a gas can and a shotgun. The agents and deputies then ordered him to drop his items, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons to neutralize the threat. These are going underneath the radar. People are saying, oh no, Trump has orchestrated these. I'm sorry, I just don't think that that's the case. We'll get to the amount of Americans that actually believe that. It is insane. Attempt number 8, Mr. Producer. Iranian intelligence agent convicted of terrorism and murder for hire connection with foil plot to assassinate the U.S. politicians and government officials. Yet another one. Next one, Mr. Producer. Correspondence dinner. This is in recent memory. This is in April, okay? Suspect charged with attempted assassination of Trump. That brings us to today. Don't know if this is another assassination attempt. Let me know if I overcounted, miscounted, or undercounted. Whatever it is, it's a lot. It's more than I'm comfortable with. Every president faces the potential for this. A lot of presidents do face regular threats that are credible. These are threats that were partially enacted or were in mid-enactment, or were hired and orchestrated and they were moving to that end. It's a lot that we're aware of. And so if I missed any, go ahead and let me know. But I do think that we have quite a few serious things to consider as a culture, as a society, as to what we allow as free speech, because calls and incitements to violence cannot be allowed to be free speech. And this kind of leads back to today. This is something, the last 24 hours as of filming this is something that a lot of people are not used to. This is something that we've been very sheltered from and very privileged from. I actually want to show one of the reporters' responses to the shooting. This is the first one, and the second one we'll have a good laugh over, but let's look at the first one.
That President Trump has said a deal is close, only for the 2 sides to remain far apart.
No. Imagine going through that. You're in America. And look, I've worked in Chicago. Okay, so I've also experienced this to an extent. But the fact that that's normal that it's becoming normalized in Chicago is a problem. The fact that it's now happening outside the White House is a problem. And not everyone reacted as well. Not all reactions were equal. Just for a moment of fun, I want to go ahead and have a look at a different reporter's reaction to the gunfire. And let's go to Julie Sirkin's response to the gunfire.
What is that?
Sounds like
today, but this obviously comes just a couple of weeks after a shooting at the White House correspondence.
So everyone else is getting it, but poor Miss Julie. You know what? I like this for her. I like that she is so sheltered. She has never heard gunfire on the street. I don't like it that an American doesn't know what guns sound like.
Especially how many movies do people watch?
Well, and then also the cameraman goes, "It sounds like fireworks," and I'm like, guys, that is not fireworks. That is the Secret Service having a full-on shootout with a guy who, I don't know if he's playing. Again, maybe he was playing Suicide by Cop. I don't know yet.
Who knows?
Want to know more?
Right.
There was a whole story that was out, by the way, that there was a tranny with a manifesto, and I don't know what to make of that. That stuff popped up and then it disappeared, but I don't know what to believe. You kind of have to be really cautious about what you take in at face value, because right now it appears that it was this guy, Nasir Best, who I'm waiting for more information on. He appears to be a Marylander, but we don't know if, I personally don't know if he was native to America or if he was a first generation or second generation immigrant. I don't know any of that yet. Don't want to go to any conclusions. What I do know is that anyone who's shooting up the White House does not have the American values of yesteryear, and we need to work on inculcating those. But the internet had some fun with Julie Sirkin, and this is a new meme response, so we figured we would jump in and we would suggest some other situations for Julie Sirkin to report on, starting with Independence Day.
What is that? What is that?
Or I don't know. I would love to see her. You know, if they do a remake of the original Jurassic Park, I would love to see her in reporting on Jurassic Park.
What is that? What is that?
Rex Mile.
She would do so well at this. In fact, you know what? If Disney reboots Star Wars one more time, I think she would be great reporting live from the Death Star.
What is that?
Stand by.
What is that?
Stand by.
Thank you, Mr. Producer. Steve. Steve's trying not to laugh over the track.
And trying to keep saying something.
So anyway, she came out and she actually put out a really good statement on this on X. So go ahead and follow Julie Sirkin. And she had this to say: I'm glad I could take one for the team with at NBC SNL on summer break. Thanks for the memes, internet. I hope you stick around for reporting. So, you know, by the way, if you ever want to have a masterclass on how to respond to becoming a meme, that was exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
Good job. I'm sorry that
She took a good one for the team, though. She really did.
So-
She did good.
not that was not a great reaction from the reporter, but that was a great follow-up, and that was great. So
Yes.
it's one of those things. It's funny, and it's okay if we have a little bit of fun with the laughing. So with that said, what I do find to not be a laughing matter is, unfortunately, this new statistic that has just come out. And again, you can find the link in the description below. Just 38% of Americans believe that all 3 assassination attempts were authentic. Okay, this is from U.S. News and Weekly. Just 38% of those surveyed believe that all the assassination attempts were real. The last 3. We gave you potentially 9, maybe 10 that are. I'm sorry, like 9 of those are solid. This last one, we don't know what's real and what's not. My question is how did Donald Trump convince Thomas Crooks to take one to the head? How did Donald Trump convince this guy who's clearly a lefty, who hates Donald Trump, to go and get arrested on a Mar-a-Lago golf course with a gun within sniper distance of Trump? How did Trump convince him? What kind of godlike superpower does Donald Trump have over these people to convince them to take a shot at him only to get shot dead or have a life sentence and continue on? It's the same thing with Erica, Kirk, and Charlie. How do we get the Charlie Kirk shooter to take one for the team as a guy who has a tranny boyfriend, and then he's going to go to prison so that Erica Kirk could run TPUSA? Guys, let's slow down a little bit. There are simpler explanations that actually appear to be real. It's not always the Jews. It's not always the cabal. It's not always the whatever. Guys,
It's aliens. No.
aliens did it.
The New World Order.
It's not always. Sometimes it's the mainstream media has hyped people up who are mentally ill. They're on SSRIs. It is by design in the sense of they want to destroy America, but it is a natural progression. Don't even know if this guy acted in any sort of way. There are shooters that you wonder if they were programmed. You wonder if they were prodded or if they were even chemically induced to do some of these things. This guy appears to have had a long history of mental illness, and he appears to have been trying to do this for a while. And if you have a media hyping it up and over and over and over again, you don't have to have a conspiracy. It's just natural.
Exactly. It's just like we were talking about just a little bit ago about having all of the ones that you elect into office, your public officials, are standing up there talking about somebody needs to do something. Donald Trump's going to be doing this. He's this. He's that.
Someone needs to take the shot, right? And there are people who say that,
and
unironically.
And there's people who are mentally ill enough that'll go, they're calling my name. I need to do something about this.
Yeah.
And they are mentally ill enough to do stuff like that. I mean, we got mentally ill people right now that are out there doing things to their own families.
Yeah.
And they have to be put places. And judges are letting them out on the street again to do it all over again.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So some of these things, some of these shooters, I suspect could be a part of this or that. It's possible. Like, for example, Thomas Crooks. I don't believe that he acted alone. It's very clear that he was going to, his cell phone allegedly was present at FBI and CIA shooting ranges in the days and months coming up to the shooting. That's clearly some sort of deep state, some sort of deep thing. But there are copycats. There is a thing in human psychology where we mimetically replicate what other people do. And so this is the problem, that a lot of people don't like the quote unquote God of the Old Testament because he said, put one such as this to death. The reason why God really focused on, in addition to needing a holy people, in addition to wanting to show the world who he was through people who lived by his precepts, and by the way, that's why Christ had to come, because man could not. And so God, from the dawn of the universe, had already foreordained that Christ would come and actually live the perfect life for us so that we could die to ourselves and live through him. But Israel was supposed to be that in the sense of they were demanded to be. And of course, humans can't do that. And that's part of God's wonderful revelation to us, is that even though we can't, he can and he will. What God couldn't allow is this kind of confusion to cycle and burn, because we replicate what we see. You do 10 You have 9 bad guys go and do bad things. The 10th one will do it just because the other 9 did. That is how humans think. And so it is a matter of some of them could be part of this or that. This one, I don't know enough yet, but at the moment, I could imagine this guy is just one mentally ill person who has listened over and over and over again to kill Trump, kill Trump, kill Trump. That's what they've heard over and over and over again. So eventually, some of them just trickle out of the woodwork and start doing it. It's like these paid protests. 1 out of 4 are paid. The others are useful idiots. But I believe it's 1 out of 4 at these protests is the rough number, are paid agitators, and they bring their friends and they organize it and they run it. And so there's a significant amount of the population that are tricked into doing this, and they go and spend their time, their money, their treasure, their resources and efforts on something that 25% are paid, and the rest of them do it because they're going with the crowd.
They're followers.
And so
They're sheep.
it is a nasty, nasty, nasty thing, and we absolutely need to curb stomp this ideology, the sick idea that frankly we can live without God as a society. That is if you want to go down to the root of it, it's really this idea, and this libertarian idea got injected somehow into conservatism way back in the 1800s. It started to creep in, and it really only took place, I think it really took its seat in the 1940s through Supreme Court decisions. In the 1950s and 60s, it really gained power. But you look at the Enlightenment during the 1800s, it's where the thought started, and it seeped into culture. It seeped into our churches. This idea of separation of church and state, that is not biblical. That is not what Jefferson meant when he wrote to the Danbury Baptists. He was specifically speaking to the state cannot co-opt or change what you do. They cannot come in and they cannot infer, because there was a state-run church. People forget that the federal was not allowed to set up a denomination, a sponsored denomination.
Correct.
The states were. They were forbidden from imposing that state-sponsored denomination and favoring it in the sense of you can't be a Quaker, you can't be a Catholic, you can only be this Methodist, or they were forbidden for doing that, but they were allowed to put tax dollars to fund charitable actions through the church and provide that. I have my own issue with that, by the way. But they were allowing state-run churches when the words separation of church and state were penned. It was not in the Constitution. It was not in the Declaration. It was not in any law. It was Thomas Jefferson comforting friends whom he had defended against the British Anglican denomination, or as he would call it, the Anglican religion, just to be clear. When they said religion, they were most often referring to, most often, not always, most often referring to Christian denominations. He had defended that Danbury Baptist Church from the Anglican religion, and he was doing the same once more and saying, don't worry, you'll be allowed to exercise your freedom. Clearly, we need to get back to Christianity is the thing that made America great. We need to start to focus on how do we live that into the public sphere in a way that is winsome, also potent. It cannot be this limp-wristed Christianity. We need to come out and say, look, you can say whatever you want to say, but the moment you start to be indecent, the moment you start to call for violence, these are things that we need to really reconsider what we allow into our sphere. We also need to consider how we allow people to practice their religions in the West. And that brings us to the suicide of the West that we see happening in Great Britain. And if you've been looking at all at this, I think some of you will be aware of this story of young Mr. Norwalk. But did you look at the stuff from Henry Norwalk?
Yes.
So let's go ahead and play. This is some of his last moments being caught in an elevator as he exited. This young man in Great Britain has enjoyed a wonderful night at the pub with the boys. He's 23 years old. He has less alcohol on his breath than what would be impermissible to drive. He just probably had a beer at the pub, and he's going home, and he's on his phone, Snapchatting with buddies, doing a typical Gen Zer thing. Just living his life. He's just living his life as a normal guy, and unfortunately, he loses his life that night. So let's go ahead and walk through this. So, again, this is just a normal knife for him. He's stabbed with an 8-inch long knife, 21 centimeters. They found the video of the attack on his Snapchat. And this is a young man who was loved by his family. He was a hard worker. He was getting through school. He was just about to graduate. He was out having a walk at night. This is a normal kid, okay? And he's walking home, and he crosses paths in Southampton with a fellow named Digwa. In Digwa, you got to understand, in Britain, if you've been sleeping, they've not only banned firearms, but they've banned knives. You cannot carry any suitable sized knife in the UK. In fact, young ladies who were being harassed by immigrants who had a hatchet, they were charged, okay, for holding a hatchet. These 14-year-old girls who were about to be potentially taken advantage of in the worst possible way, they are trying to defend themselves, and they're the ones who see legal repercussions. Well, same is true here with Henry Nowak. It's Norwalk. Nowak. I'm used to Norwalk. My dad's from L.A., and Norwalk is a subdivision. So Nowak, Henry Nowak. I'm sorry.
White.
He was walking home.
White.
And he comes past Digwa, and Digwa claims that Nowak, Henry, uttered a racial slur, and there is a altercation. There's a problem, though. All of the knife wounds from this knife that Nowak, in his own country, is not allowed to carry, this Sikh immigrant is allowed to carry the 8-inch long knife. All of the knife wounds are in the back, especially the two going into the backs of his legs. These are aggressive wounds, not defensive wounds. This is someone who is trying to kill someone else. All right. And there was an altercation, and Novak says, you're a bad man. I see your knife. You're a bad man. And you can hear on it, I'm told, we're not going to probably ever see the body cam footage from this or the footage from Snapchat. Yeah, I am a bad man. And they tussle, and then this kid starts to stab Henry. This is a 23-year-old, okay? So they're both about the same age. And he starts to stab Henry as Henry runs, and he runs as far as he can, as fast as he can. When the police show up on the scene, who do they arrest? The one with a knife? Oh, by the way, his parents stole the knife, stole the phone from the crime scene. Digwa's parents showed up.
Right.
They took the knife from the crime scene. They hid it. They took Henry's phone, which had the evidence, and eventually it was found out that they had stolen it. There's this kid with wounds in his back laying on the ground, white kid. And I'm going to make it about race for a second because one of these two belongs here. One of these two has a cultural heritage, and the other one is a guest. The guest has murdered the child of the home. The child of the home is laying in a puddle of his blood, and who do the police hook up? The Britisher. Because Henry supposedly said mean words. And so while he's bleeding out, saying, I can't breathe, by the way, they had thrown, the father of Digwa had thrown Henry up against the wall to try to make it look as though it wasn't as bad as it was. And so he's up against the wall, being handcuffed, saying, I can't breathe. Does that sound like anyone? By the way, unlike George Floyd, Henry Nowak was not on fentanyl. And wasn't going to die already from that. But instead, he couldn't breathe because he was being pressed up against while he was bleeding out. They did not call the ambulance until after he was passed out. He was passed out. He died on that sidewalk. And the police did not render the aid necessary with the speed required to save a native-born Englishman. But instead, they arrested him after he had been stabbed. Why? Political correctness is supreme in the UK. It is the most important law. It is their sacrament. The left's sacrament is political correctness. White people are bad. That is why Henry Nowak died on a sidewalk in his own nation by an invader who didn't have to fire a shot. And only now Ardigua and his mother, potentially we'll see if his father, are being held accountable. But you're not hearing any of this in the news. Why am I linking this to the assassination of the president? The attempted, one more time potentially. We can't live and coexist with people who do not share our values. The idea that human life is precious is an unusual idea in human history. It is a strange idea, a good one. But one would say it's an otherworldly idea. It comes from the world beyond this one. It is not acceptable. It is not okay that this is allowed to continue and this is allowed to go. I want to show you an image. I think that part of this is Photoshop, but it does give you the idea of the size of the knife. If you could pull up that cut, just so you know, this is what Digwa apparently was carrying. It was something to this effect. I believe this is security footage, and someone photoshopped this image of Henry on there. But the attacker claimed racism, and basically Nowak was allowed to bleed out because they assumed in those critical moments, instead of rendering care, they assumed that the aggressor was the one bleeding out because he was white. It's exclusively because he was white. Think about that for a moment. Think about all of the issues in ills. That is as bad as any Jim Crow era story with white on black violence. And that is as bad as anything else that you've ever heard.
And the cops are the ones that are worried about some kind of racist problem occurring because of a immigrant that has come over, stabbed to death a citizen of the country
who did nothing wrong,
who's done nothing wrong, while this immigrant is carrying a knife, which is illegal to carry in their country, and the citizen is the one that gets arrested. Tell me there's not something wrong with this.
Are we the baddies? That's what they should be asking
Tell me
themselves.
there's not something wrong with this outlook here, folks. And if you agreed with me, say something about it, because, man, this is ridiculous.
It is incredible how screwed up this is. And someone in the comments section actually made a mention, this Good Vibe 17. By the way, if you're one of our regular listeners, thank you for hundreds of thousands of downloads of the audio anywhere you can find a podcast, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. Thank you. You can listen live and watch live on PSB's channel, on Rumble, 1 to 3 Central Time, God's Time Zone, on PSB on Rumble. Good Vibes, 80% of Sikhs are liberals. That's because they're not socially liberal. They're voting so that they can get more of their people. They want to create these little Indias, just like they want to be able to create these little Islamabads, these little itty-bitty insurgent pockets and nations. And their hope is to pillage the West without having to fire a shot, because they cannot do it militarily, but they can do it through our suicidal empathy. And that is 100% the case. Now, there's a little bit of hope for the UK. If you live there, I hope that you really support the right party here. And I hope that you start to look at reform and labor, and you start to look at the good guys and bad guys here, because this is a plea that ultimately I think fell on deaf ears in Parliament. But I do want to go ahead and play it, Mr. Producer, cut number 22.
A student on a night out is stabbed multiple times with a 21 centimetre long knife. He's lying in a pool of his own blood, literally drowning in his blood. The police come to the scene. Instead of doing everything that they can to save his life, they handcuff and arrest the lad because there's an accusation of racial abuse. This is a scandal. Will the Home Secretary come to the House and say what she's doing to investigate the way the police conducted this matter? And can we have a debate on two-tier policing, which is doing so much to undermine respect for the police and for the rule of law in this country?
And it's leftism that's eating the country. And unfortunately, this is basically the reaction of the left in the UK. This is what you'll see from Starmer.
What is that? What is that?
In comedy, we call that a callback. But all of that to say, with the same level of intelligence, what is that? What is that? No, that's the sound of your country dying. That is the sound of your country being over. And look, there are cases where the UK police do a better job, but only a little bit. Steve, I know you're going to have thoughts on this clip. We have another clip in just a moment of what they do correctly, but I actually want to play this little tribute to Henry Nowak from his family. It is sad. Look how they shine for you. Lower the volume on that. So Henry is missed so much by so many. His family, Henry's family, have a drive to keep, and that is to keep Henry's name alive by raising money for To Wish, the charity that continues to help them navigate the grief. Please help us fill the stands for Henry and his family to show that we all stand by their sides and raise money for the charity that sadly needed more than ever. This is Henry Nowak and his big, beautiful sister, Olivia, both of them fun and light and always full of laughter. So go ahead and support that. It'll be on Saturday, 11th July, if you are in the UK. This needs to be our George Floyd. Thank you, sir. This needs to be our George Floyd. We really need to look at this, and not from the perspective of race, but from the perspective of, guys, this happens a lot, and this one is particularly egregious. So you're actually getting a little bit, the right people have spoken up, and you're just seeing one of them. You're just seeing one of them right now. But this happens all the time in the UK, and it is going to get worse. And if you wonder why an American is worried about it, UK is only a few years ahead of us here if we continue to embrace a suicidal empathy and some of these really dumb policies. We're going to see more and more as we import people who do not have our beliefs, and as we do not stick to our beliefs ourselves, our society will dissolve. And you're seeing stuff like this on the streets of the UK all the time. Go ahead and throw up that next cut, Mr. Producer.
Take the taser! Jacket! Take the taser! Get on the ground! Detention of power! Detention of power! Drop the knife! 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 Drop the knife!
Remember, they're not allowed to carry guns.
Drop the knife! Drop the knife! Detention of power! Get off!
So, not impressive. Thank you, Mr. Producer. But I'm glad that they got him
deal with
down.
people with guns if you don't
If you don't have guns,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so if the average officer, the average beat cop is not allowed to carry.
Isn't that absurd?
So they're again, they're assuming that they're going to be able to subdue them. They also assume that everyone is going to follow the rule of law. The problem is, by definition, if someone needs to be arrested, in theory, they've violated the law. In theory.
It's like they think humans are inherently good.
And that is the root of the problem. They don't understand the basic issues of, they don't understand humanity because they come from a skewed worldview. And it's a worldview that brings about stuff like this. If you have not heard this story, this is an interesting one. We're going to go ahead and put up Dr. K here. This is a YouTuber who said naughty words. Okay, they barely prosecuted Digwa for stabbing a kid. It was so clear, it was so blatant, it was so egregious, and it made its way to Parliament that they're going to go ahead and prosecute this Sikh who may or may not be indicted based on what we've seen. He may or may not be indicted because of the racism charge. It's like somehow if I said, even if he used the N-word on a black guy, there is no excuse to stab someone. Don't get me wrong. I don't approve of that. I don't like it. But my gosh, that is a escalation that does not deserve to be.
I had even read that they had watched some video or something and couldn't even find.
Correct. Because he was on Snapchat and he was on Snap while they did the tussle. And that's where we get the, you're a bad man. No, I am a bad man. And he goes and starts to stab. And the other thing is, as Henry Nowak was actually bleeding out, you actually have part of the video. There is video footage there. I don't know if it's body cam, but you actually hear, I can't breathe. And there's a voice mocking him. And there's a good chance it was actually the police officers who showed up. There's a good chance because they have their values so backward that a YouTuber who has stabbed no one, who has only brought up an issue, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, because it is offensive and mean that he brings up the issue, he is going to be jailed and arrested and frog walked out of his own house. Go ahead and play the cut, Mr. Producer.
Yeah, let's go. Let me just record. This is kind of unusual. What's going on?
Okay, so currently you've been placed under arrest for harassment. Okay.
Hold on.
Listen to my colleague. Listen to my colleague. I'll explain everything. Yeah, I'll explain everything. So you're under arrest on suspicion of harassment.
Harassing who?
Okay, well, let's bring through. Give us 2 seconds.
Hold on, but my children are in there.
Just let us speak, and we'll go through that afterwards.
Harassment for who? I don't understand.
No, you do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence.
I don't know what's going on.
Let me explain the question, okay? You do not have to say anything.
But
it may harm your defence if you do not mention one question something later on in court, okay? Anything you do say may be given an
But I completely don't understand.
Do you understand the court?
I don't understand what you're doing.
Okay.
I've got 3 young children.
Okay, so you're listening?
Yes, I'm listening.
Right, so you're under arrest currently, right, on suspicion of harassment.
From who?
We'll go through all that. Sorry, I've explained the caution to you, okay? So the grounds of the arrest are that from the 10th of March, you made apparently a number of posts online and on social media harassing an individual and making serious allegations.
Yes.
Is that someone from the church? I don't know.
Yes.
Bishop Moran. Wait a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Bishop
Moran. Yes.
Remember,
Thank you, Mr. Producer.
anything you do say will be given.
Yes.
Imagine for a moment that you're living your life, you're with your children, and you see cop cars pull up outside. You walk outside, and this is how you're treated. Oh, and what am I guilty of? Oh, you've been accused of harassment, yeah? And of course, your negative comments about the Archbishop and a certain priest, they're inflammatory. See, so you're going to be arrested and frog marched out in front of your kids. He later on goes to say, "Hey, I just want to say goodbye to my kids." No. You're scaring your kids, see, and it's best if you just come quietly with us.
Now, this rubs me
so wrong
sideways here. I'm going to tell you, and even more than that. And people in this country talk about this is a fascist country.
That is so bonkers.
That is fascist right there. And they talk about how this is the greatest
audacity
country in the world.
We left y'all for a reason, yeah? In fact, I think we gave you we gave you the bird a long time ago, eh?
Hey, Hey, I think it was back in the 1700s, eh?
Yeah, I don't think we want your opinions. In fact, I think we killed a few of you to make sure we didn't have to listen to them, especially because you were shoving them down our throats.
And wrote
and a few other places.
Great constitution
to keep you out because
right.
of this. And I want to go. This gentleman is a. I'd never heard of him before, but he is a YouTuber, and he was brought on after all of it fell out to a talk show in the UK, and he has this to explain when asked, "Did you know what happened? Why is this going on? What's happening?" So, take a listen.
We're in a cop movie.
Did you have any clue as to why they were there when they first
Well, they
showed up?
told me, they said it's because of harassment. You've got a harassment complaint by Father, let's call him Father Fake,
yes.
the defrocked priest, who made a harassment complaint. And as a result of basically his victim testimony, because there was very little evidence apart from my emails, my non-violent emails, that's all they had. As a result of his theatrical performance in the police station, they arrested me because of how he felt. That's what they told me.
But even... I mean, there's so many questions around this, even allowing for the fact. And if I turned up at a cop shop tomorrow and said, I think I've been harassed by somebody, I would never imagine that the police would go, OK, no problem, we'll send 6 police officers round to their house. I mean, you wouldn't, bearing in mind, it's hard to get a cop round if you've had your car nicked.
OK, it's a really good question. I think the point is they went in, the 2 of them went in, the bishop and this priest who were both complicit with each other, and they went in full clerical garb to the Metropolitan Police. Walking in with their... And they put on a show, right? So I think the police were very, very impressed with the clerical garb. I mean, these people are not even part of the mainstream church, right? They're part of a sect. But they were obviously very, very impressed with, I'm bishop this and I'm that. And they were clearly very impressed with the demeanour of the priest and the bishop. And I think that's what swung it.
That swung it. So you'd had an email exchange with one of these people?
With both of them.
With both of them. And had that gone on for some time?
No, it was only about 3 or 4 emails. I mean, this wasn't like thousands of emails. This was very short, over a period of about a month. I was saying, why is this priest still in service? Get him out, you know?
Because there'd been an allegation of abuse.
There had, and like the thing which tipped it over the edge, and in one of my emails, and I think this is what sent them over the edge, is I threatened to go to the media because the priest was still in active service, and I had given the official documentation of his laicization. Nothing was being done. He was going around to families with children, offering to say private masses. And I said to his bishop, if you don't take him out of public ministry, I'm going to go to the media. And that's when all hell broke loose. That's when they went to the police and thought they'd shut me up with a harassment suit.
But you might have thought the police at that point would have gone, hang on a second, so this fella Brendan is threatening to go to the media. That would suggest there might be more to this story. You might think that a diligent cop would first think that.
Well, there is in modern policing,
must have a story.
Right, in modern policing, there is a complete lack of common sense. Common sense is good. There is no good judgment anymore. Somebody can come in, give a theatrical performance, say my feelings are hurt, and the police will investigate. So the police can actually be used as a vexatious tool to silence people, because if you come in, it's very much on your emotions and your feelings and your impact statement, and you can talk a load of BS, but if you can give a convincing performance, the police will come out and investigate, and they love doing it, and they seized all our equipment. My solicitor said they love seizing equipment because they want to get you for looking at dodgy stuff on the internet, right? So they went through all my hard drives, they found nothing, but they seized all our stuff, and that's really what they wanted.
I mean, that to me was the other bit as well. Again, there's loads of crimes you could commit and no one would nick all your kit. I mean, but with this, because it was to do with communication, everything electronic, every computer, I'm sure the odd switch got put in.
And so, by the way, Brandon Kavanaugh is the guy's name, Dr. K on YouTube, link in the description below, anywhere you can find Further Every Day. Is he some sort of political commentator? Is he a shock jock? No, he is a busker. He plays the piano in public places, and he records interactions with people. And so in his interactions with his local church and the people in the community, right, wrong, or indifferent, maybe he's wrong about this priest. I have no idea. And nor do I care. He sends an email to the Archbishop saying, hey, I've got a concern that you have this priest who's had allegations of doing naughty things. This is not even public at the moment. This is, you have a problem And there is a public trust issue with the safety of children who this priest, don't know, not even going to get involved in that. I have no idea. Maybe Kavanaugh's wrong. Maybe the guy who plays piano is not a great detective. I don't know. How does that email thread turn into jackbooted thugs frog marching him out in front of his wife and kids, out of his own home? How does that turn into, in a country where kids are getting stabbed, where knives are illegal, but certain classes, because they're protected, are allowed to carry ceremonial knives? So you've de-armed your populace. You've allowed the invasion of outside people, people who do not love you or your culture, do not play by your rules. And if they're on that jury, there's a good chance that, frankly, that Sikh who stabbed Henry Nowak is going to walk off free. You've allowed all of that. And now that there is a potential indiscretion between a priest and a child, and this guy says, wait a minute, Archbishop, I have a problem with you keeping this guy on active to do private masses at people's homes. You're going to go and pursue that guy? That's what you're going to put your money and your effort to? Something is really wrong. When you call evil good and good evil, the Bible says woe to those people. It says you are going down. There is a problem. We need to start living by that. We need to start thinking about that. And we really need to start to stand up against this, because this is insane. This is patently nuts that they would, if it weren't for the pressure from the family and from some of the politicians who they do have their brains mildly screwed on some level, saying, wait a minute, we can't let college kids get stabbed to death by immigrants. That story would not have come out. That guy, Digwa, would not have been prosecuted, but instead, this busker who plays the piano, because he said, I think something might be wrong with the priest who's been accused of doing bad things to children, being allowed and specifically sent by the church to people's private houses alone. Guys, I'm sorry. I don't know. If you don't see the problem with that, if you don't see how this suicidal empathy has turned the West upside down, I don't know what else to say.
That's why we gave England the
The
finger
bird.
and told them to eat
It's a
what
family show.
Yeah,
we gave him a big bird.
the big bird, big yellow bird.
Yeah.
And told them to eat it. And now we got the First Amendment that says, hey, if you don't like me hurting your feelings,
yeah,
that's just way too bad, because Supreme Court says it's okay, and the Constitution says it's quite all right. And if you don't like it, go fly a kite.
So
find someplace else to be.
I'm glad we're here in the U.S., but as goes Britain, if we're not careful, we'll follow suit.
That's exactly right.
The left wing of the Enlightenment encroached from Germany and to France, and we saw what happened in France. We saw what happened in Germany. It spread to Russia, and it has spread to the UK, and we are seeing it here. Sorry, McCarthy was right. There are communists under the carpets. They are coming out from the woodwork, and they have managed to do exactly what they said they would do. They actually came into the Congress, and they spoke out exactly what they wanted to do in the 1960s. They wanted to break down the nuclear family. They wanted to promote promiscuity and nudity and pornography. They wanted to
and drugs.
And drugs. They wanted to destroy the moral fabric of the nation because it would allow them to live as they wanted to. And by the way, most of the people in the Communist Party at that time in the Socialist Party, they were really, really weird deviants who did really, really weird stuff, like Margaret Sanger and all of the suffragettes. They were really weird people going through the late 1800s, the early 1900s, mid 1900s in the U.S. They were very strange people, people who did not hold our ideals or values, and people that, frankly, should have been institutionalized. But we're letting them rule the nation, and right now we're seeing what happens in the UK. Hopefully enough people actually step up and they say, "Hey, this is no longer acceptable. It's no longer cool. It really needs to go away."
Yeah, and that's why the Democrat Party prefers and enjoys having sheep as people that are their voters versus where the Republicans prefer free thinkers, that people that like to think outside the box, that like to create money, create wealth, create people who have jobs, create that own businesses, create money for the economy and keep the economy flowing, whereas the Democrats would rather put everybody on government welfare or something and then expect a small percentage of 1% of the population to pay for everybody.
Correct. And so just some comments from the live chat over on PSB. What surprises me, this is from Good Vibe 17, what surprises me is all the conservatives who say, I'd love to spend a few weeks in the UK. You know what? There's something that I would love to go and see UK as it was 20 years ago. And there's a party that almost wants to go and just be able to see the things that you know, a lot of my people hail from the UK on my mom's side. I would love to see those places, but it's really sad and it's getting to be significantly more scary going over there. This comes from Dream Walking One. A chef carrying his knives to work was stopped and arrested in the UK a few years ago. Find me that story, please. Drop it in the chat, the live chat over on PSB. I would love to see, or you can go to Further Every Day on Rumble or YouTube and drop a comment. I would love to see that story of a chef getting arrested for carrying his knives to work. That is bonkers.
That would be interesting.
And so I don't know enough about that. But then this comes from Just a Pug. In the UK, if you are Wolverine, you'll get arrested for walking around with your body. Nice, Pug. Nice. I would say this. I think that there is a point coming where you are going to be so saran wrapped for safety that it'll feel like that. And I think it's only going to get worse from here. So just a quick note, Middle East update. If you can go ahead and pull it up. It looks like we might potentially have yet another ceasefire planned. Let's go ahead and play the clip. Let's see if this works out for the president.
Yeah, hey, Charlie, good morning. Overnight, President Trump announced that an agreement with Iran has been largely negotiated. The president indicated there are still some details and aspects that have to be worked out, but he does anticipate there will be an announcement soon. A regional source who has reviewed the agreement told Fox News the deal states that U.S. forces will stay in the proximity of Iran for 30 days. The context here is that it signals to Iran that the military option remains on the table if nuclear issues aren't resolved or the interim agreement is violated. The source added that as part of the deal, Iran will receive oil sanctions waivers. Iran will also have frozen funds and assets eventually released worth billions of dollars. On Saturday, President Trump held a call that included leaders from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, and Pakistan, aimed at reaching a broader understanding. A separate regional diplomat told Fox News the call was very positive. Good progress is being made, adding that regional leaders were supportive of the progress and of the breakthrough President Trump achieved with the talks. We are still awaiting all of the final details of the understanding, but President Trump said the Strait of Hormuz will be opened. Shortly after, Iranian state media pushed back on that aspect of his Truth Social post, saying despite some Western media reports claiming a return of the Strait situation to pre-war conditions, what is included in the possible understanding is not a full return to the previous status, but rather the restoration of the transiting vessels to pre-war levels within 30 days. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said this today about the negotiations.
There is the possibility that over the next few hours, the world will get some good news, at least with regards to the Straits and with regards to a process that can ultimately leave us where the president wants us to be. And that is a world that no longer has to be in fear or worry about an Iranian nuclear weapon. And so I do think there's some good news on that front, but not final news on that front.
Reports also indicate Iran's nuclear program is addressed in this first draft of an agreement, with more details to be discussed in the weeks ahead. Guys?
All right. Thank you, Trey.
Thanks, Trey.
Massive story.
Massive story.
I hope and pray that this war is short. I think if he can manage to actually land the plane in a way that shows his support. By the way, just a quick note, There is a lot of consternation in the GOP between the uber pro-Israel and then the uber anti-Israel lobbies. The anti-Israel lobbies are very excited about this deal. The pro-Israel lobbies, pro to sometimes a fault, Ted Cruz is. I love Senator Cruz. I think he's, in general, one of the best senators in the Senate. His remarks on Israel being his number one purpose for being in the Senate are very troubling to me. I elected him. I voted for him in Texas to be a Texas senator, not an Israeli senator. But he did say something interesting. He said, if the wrong people like this deal, it has me concerned. I would like there to be some sort of semblance of strength in a peace talk. I hope that this is not a retreat. I hope that we get what we want, which is a free and open Strait of Hormuz. I don't necessarily care what Israel needs or wants, but rather right now we need the war to be done. Prices are through the roof. And if we lose the midterms to this, it's bad. Politically, it's bad. President Trump does not want Iran having nukes. I think that's a good thing. I hope that we can denuclearize Iran through this. Don't know if that's going to happen. And frankly, look, if we get out of Iran without regime change, but they get denuked, that would be a win for me. That would be a solid win.
Yep. I agree.
It's been de facto regime change anyway. We killed most of them. So
I think we have.
So
it'd be good if there's anybody too scared to want to step up. That would even be better.
Well, I would like them to do it themselves, the Iranians.
That's what I would like.
If they could actually just do it themselves, we would all be so much better for it.
Agreed.
Hoping that they do. So keep your eyes on that and keep your prayers out for the president. Hopefully he does a good job with this. I definitely don't want us to withdraw out of the Strait of Hormuz from a position of weakness. That would be a loss. And it would be something that would be very bad for the midterms. Some people are saying, hey, don't think we're going to win the midterms. Don't know. This is actually one chance. There's a very small chance we actually could still maintain the House and the Senate. And we might actually get rid of a few rhinos while we're at it. I'm hoping for Kim Paxton here in Texas. Have you voted yet? Did you really vote for Paxton? Did you vote yet, Mr. Producer?
Yes.
I tell you what, didn't vote for Cornyn, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, didn't vote for Cornyn. I'm tired of these people who vote, and that's what happened with Massey, by the way. It wasn't that he was libertarian; it's that he continually bucked the party to the point of going over to Ro Khanna's side. I know a lot of people love Massey, but in a party, if you're going to continue to buck the party in this critical moment when we needed you,
right?
I understand the principled argument. There comes a point where you got to go ahead and actually support the things that are going to get through in a politically expedient manner.
There comes a time when you got to row the boat, man.
Yeah. So hopefully, we get rid of all of the speed bumps in the Republican Party, and we actually maintain. If we could maintain those and maintain the numbers, but switch out for some better ones. The second term might actually be the most effective term of Trump's entire political career, or and the second half more specifically might be the most effective time in his political career. So be praying for that. Be praying for revival in the church as well. With that said, I think we're ready for some shenanigans with Steve.
I can go shoot me a buffalo.
Nope.
Stay out of my garbage can. I'll keep it to myself. We just may be looking at some giraffes. No, we can't shoot giraffes over here, can we?
Yeah. No shooting giraffes.
Okay. Well, maybe some other time when they become exotic species. But what we're going to do here today, we are going to look at safety in the outdoors today, folks. We've been going over a number of things in the outdoors, and today we're going to look at a little bit of safety in the outdoors. One of the first things that you need to do now is, first slide there, Captain, is take a hunter education course, okay? Now, If you were born after 1976, you have to take a hunter education course, hunter safety course, if you're born after 1976. Okay? Now, if you're born before that date, you're grandfathered in. Like me, I'm grandfathered in. I'm a grandfather, so I'm grandfathered in. No. But if you are born after 76, you have to take a hunter education course. Required, period. Now, the thing about a hunter education course, if you take it in Texas, it's good for any state, okay? So if I was to go to Michigan and go hunt, and they require me to have a hunter education course in order to get a hunting license, my hunter education course that I took here in Texas also is good for Michigan. So I can still get a license in Michigan for the hunter education course that I have taken in Texas. And the easy way to do that and to show proof of that is to show them your hunting license, and it will have printed on your hunting license that it shows that you've taken a hunter education course. It has it printed out every time on your hunting license that you have taken a hunter education course. So that will show up. That is one of the things, and I would suggest even someone like myself, I've taken it already. I took it with my two boys when they were needing to do it, and I went ahead and did it.
And it's easy. It's fun.
It's not hard. You can take it online.
It's fast and easy.
You know, it's not difficult at all. I didn't have to take it, but I did it anyways, and it's really good to go ahead and just take it anyways. So that's one of the first things I would suggest you do. Next slide, please, sir. One of the other things that's really good to do now this is for hunting, if you hunt in a hang-on stand that is in a tree, or if you're in a ladder stand. Yes, a ladder stand. I'm going to repeat that. Yes, in a ladder stand. Wear a safety harness. Because I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter if you're 12 feet or 5 feet off the ground, you can injure and break something. A neck, your back, it doesn't matter how high you are. You can fall down from standing up and injure yourself so bad. Ask people that are elderly. It happens every single day, people. If you get off the ground and get into a tree of any height, wear a safety harness. I'm not talking about one that just fits around your waist, okay? I'm talking about a harness, okay? Because if you've ever fallen out of a tree and just hung from your waist, that's not what you want to do. Trust me, okay? I've fallen out of a tree a couple of times with my safety harness on, and let me tell you, you would rather have a safety harness on instead of one that is attached just around your waist.
Oh, yeah. If you fall, especially if you're doing tree blind hunting, oh, my gosh.
Man.
It's worth it.
Most definitely. And it is not difficult to fall out of a tree stand.
That's why I hunt from ground blinds.
From ground blinds. Yeah.
It's a lot less effort to get up there.
That's for sure. And I'll tell you what, some of these ladders that people put up, and I had one happen to me, it only took 1 year, that will strap to a tree. I climbed up to the top of it, grabbed the top step, and it's, for some reason or another, it had rusted and it broke. And I went flying backwards, and I thought for sure, this is it. And for some reason, I don't know how or another, this is God's blessing? I know it was God's blessing. Somehow or another, all of a sudden, my body swung around to the right and swung me around to the tree just close enough to where I could grab a hold of the stand with my right hand because I was falling straight back.
Have you seen Steve in motion, Ryan? Like, have you seen him actually in action?
No.
This man is like a cat. He's like he's like a cat, especially when he's prowling. He's got his 357 Magnum out, and you can just hear the Magnum PI music going in the background as he's like cutting through the woods.
When we were hunting those hogs in there.
We've gone hunting.
That
before.
was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got some.
I missed one, but I murdered a yopine.
I cut it right in half.
I think Steve needs a hunting YouTube channel.
I would love to see him in a hunting YouTube. So yeah, we got to start a GoFundMe for that.
Sorry, GoFundMe. Oh my.
Go ahead.
It'd be something else.
Absolutely exploded that little baby tree with your 357 Magnum. Continue on.
Yeah. Next one, sir. Okay. Now this is something that is always good to do. Okay. You need to let folks know your travel plans. Okay. Now I know there are a lot of guys out there that travel 5, 6, 7, 8 hours to a deer lease, or you travel to another state, travel into Colorado, travel to New Mexico, wherever. Now, guys, look here, okay? Draw a plan on a map, the way you're going to go, where you're going to be, the area you're going to be in, and let someone know, your spouse, let a friend, let someone know where you're going to be so that if something happens,
you can be found, and also have your
that
route,
is so important.
have your route planned.
Yes.
My father did did a bunch of ranger rescue work when he was in LA Council's scouting ecosystem, and there was a snow drift that came in up in the mountains up outside of LA, huge snowstorm, and this troop, they had decided that they were going to go off trail to try to beat the snowstorm.
Oh man!
Spoiler, they didn't beat it.
Right.
And if my dad and his partner had not caught up with them and found them, because they finally figured out where they bushwhacked off to the side, those 7 or 8 boys and 2 scoutmasters would not have made it.
Oh, wow.
Always have a trek plan. And if you have to evacuate early, make sure you go along your trek plan. Make sure people know where you are. If you're at a campsite, make sure you clear some dirt and some mud and leave some boot prints for the rangers to be able to know your tread. Make sure that's at the front of the campsite, especially if you're alone, but don't go into the woods alone. Make sure you bring a buddy.
Yep.
Which I believe is a slide.
Yes.
Yeah, so coming right up.
Next slide, sir.
I think it's the one right after.
Communication. Folks, I'm going to tell you something, okay? Now, the way communication is nowadays, everybody's got a cell phone. And just about most places you can get a cell signal, but not every place. Some cell phones pick up better than others. Then there's phones like sat phones, and then there's types of radios that are great, that pick up long ways and long distances. Hey, there's great types of communication that you can get to communicate back and forth with people. But I'll tell you what, having good communication with people on the outside is very important.
Yeah.
That way they know what is going on, just like John Arthur had mentioned with those scouts with the bad weather.
And there's no reason not to have a GPS in the year of our Lord 2026.
And I'll tell you what, a GPS is dynamite to have. Nowadays, it is.
Verizon is the superior network. They have better coverage in rural places. But if you can't get that kind of coverage, make sure you have a GMRS radio and you know your Ranger
Yes.
freaks, and make sure that you have a satellite phone. If you're somewhere out like in the boundary waters between Minnesota and Canada, make sure you
Yes.
have that.
Out in the mountains somewhere where there's
Correct.
no cell phone use.
Correct.
Sat phones are great. Out in the middle of the desert or someplace is fantastic.
Make
to
sure
have
you
sat
have the
phone.
right stuff.
The right stuff for the right places.
Yep.
Very key.
Which includes having a buddy.
That's it. Which leads to our next one.
You're going to have to
do not be alone. Have a friend. And what you'll see right here, some of the best friends that you can have when you go hunting are your children. This right here you'll see is my oldest son and my grandson. They're now hunting buddies. And when he's doing the same thing with his son that I did with my two boys when they were young, I took them on, God, I can't even tell you how many hunting trips. It would boggle the mind, all the hunting trips and just so many fishing trips and hunting trips, remote hunting trips, being gone for 6-7 days and just, I mean, in the middle of nowhere, having a great time. But we always had extra people with us, always. And we had some form of communication when it became available. Because when we were first going, when I was first going some of the places, there was no communication.
It's not the same as it is today. It's a blessing. Modernity has its perks.
Yes, it does. And so does technology.
Indeed, indeed.
That is for sure. Next one, sir. Now, here is another one. When you're hiking or when you're hunting, when you go hiking, always hike with a friend.
Have a buddy all the time.
I'm going to tell you.
The buddy system.
Exactly.
Have buddy
Ryan.
1 and have buddy 2.
That is correct. And we'll talk about buddy 2 also, too.
It's a slide.
Yes.
It's a nod
Next
for the
one, sir.
slide.
I didn't know.
Carry a defense when you're out in the woods. Now
you do.
Going hunting, going hiking, especially if you go and hike someplace and you're out in a forest. Now, national forest, now, I'm not going to say this works for all places. Now, you need to check
your local
state
laws.
and local laws for carrying a sidearm, okay? All states, you need to check. All states are different, so you need to make sure and check them and check your requirements for whatever it is, okay? In Texas is a constitutional state carry, so that allows us, we can carry all kinds of places. Yep.
Because
Texas.
we're in a good state.
We're in a real good state.
Pardon the pun.
All kinds of forests that you go into, you can carry a sidearm as long as you're not walking into a state building or a federal building.
But less effective, but still pretty good to have would be.
The next slide is if you're going into bear country is a bear spray.
I wish.
Now, did you hear that one story? I read a story 3 days ago. This will trip you out. About how effective bear spray is. This guy.
Did he end up having to punch the bear in the nose?
No, it was worse than that, man. This guy, they found very few remains of this guy.
Oh, but they found the can of bear spray up his gullet?
They found a can of bear spray that was completely used up. They found the bear covered with bear spray.
Yeah. My bear spray works.
And it didn't even work on him.
Do you know my recipe for bear spray? Triple up buck.
Amen on that.
For those of you who don't
Triple
know,
aught buck
a shotgun.
backed up with
a couple of 1 ounce slugs.
Yes.
That's my bear spray.
Yeah.
Right up the nose. Works every time.
Yep. Right in the face. Works every single time.
Next one, Mr. Producer.
He's looking at us like, huh? Now.
You got the joke, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Keep going.
Now, here's another one. Now, my suggestion, and this is one that is a personal suggestion of mine. If you go into the woods and you're not carrying a firearm, carry a walking stick with you, okay? If you're not carrying a firearm. Sometimes even when you are carrying a firearm, if you're just hiking through the woods and you got a firearm, it's good to always have a walking stick.
Yep.
Because there's times you're not going to want to use a firearm. Some animal just charges at you. Raccoons. Raccoons can be mean and feisty. They'll want to attack you and bite on you, and it's some other animal. Walking sticks are very good at keeping animals away from you.
More importantly is detection and being able to remove snakes. So if you're
Very much so.
If you're walking in the field, one of the things that I find, especially in further west in Texas, it's nice to be able to put my stick out like a cane and just kind of go to the tuft. If I suspect, I have that ability. It's a very, very useful tool. It's not just for the vibes.
Right.
It's very, very useful.
And my suggestion is to have a walking stick that is at least as tall as you are, or 6 to 12 inches taller, but at least as tall as what you are.
You want to be able to reach out and grab a snake, get it to coil, and then chuck it. You want to be able to have that if you're out in the woods. It's a wise decision.
And a walking stick, you'll be amazed at how handy a walking stick is.
Absolutely.
When you walk with one and go through the woods with one.
They're great.
Yeah, it is. I've got a couple of them myself, and one of them's got a little hook on the end with a point on it, and it's like
stab that snake.
Yep.
You may or may not want to try to shoot the snake. Being able to pick it up, coil it, and throw it is much better.
When I'm out in the woods and doing stuff, I really don't. I've come across so many poisonous snakes, and I just kind of
slough them off,
push them out of the way. I've come across so many kinds. It's just ridiculous.
It's just better off.
Yeah.
So this has been Steve Shenanigans. I think we're ready for a song review.
All right, time for today's song review. And just a reminder as to why we do this segment real quick. Music is everywhere. It is in our cars, at our workplaces. It is everywhere. It's a gift from God, very important part of life, I think. And so we do this because we think it's very important. We think the Bible teaches, we believe the Bible teaches that it is important what you take in, how much of it you take in. Be careful to watch the media you consume. And also, we do this not to be critical, but analytical. And today we have a song from one of my favorite artists, or at least used to be one of my favorite artists, Ren Collective. Boldly I Approach, The Art of Celebration. And John Arthur, you and I had to look at a line from this song the other day, so I thought it'd be good to look at it on the podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ren Collective makes some really beautiful stuff, but
Agreed.
Their theology,
in their older days, they did.
Yeah,
their
their theology has really suffered, and but it doesn't mean that they still can't make good music. This one has one or two issues that I think are worth noting.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the most part, it's a really good song, but there's a couple lines. So let's dive in here. Let's start with verse 1. By grace alone, somehow I stand, where even angels fear to tread, invited by redeeming love before the throne of God above. He pulls me close with nail-scarred hands into his everlasting arms.
So,
now,
yeah.
I'll say this. No problem. The only line in this first verse I have a problem with is where angels fear to tread.
By grace alone, somehow I stand where It's foolish for me to be because even the angels are afraid of. It's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is not great writing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not awesome writing.
Yeah.
It's just, there's better songs.
Right.
Like and some people are going to say, oh, what a freaking curmudgeon. Like, get off your high horse.
What'd you just say?
What a freaking curmudgeon. You don't know what a
I learned
curmudgeon
a
is?
new word today.
You don't know what a curmudgeon
No.
is? You've heard me use that word. It's someone who is particularly insatiable it's a curmudgeon, someone who is not easily satisfied, and they're annoyed. Usually a curmudgeon is older and they're picky. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But some people are upset by that, but it's like, no. If you're singing worship songs, if you're even just to yourself in the car and bopping out, you should be careful what you sing and what you think about, because it does change you. Garbage in, garbage out, good in, hopefully good out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little thing, I still think like letting a little, what would you call it? I'm not thinking exactly heresy, but like something that's just a little, bit off. Like even like I think over time, like the more you let in, like it just adds up, and it can be very dangerous.
In manufacturing, we call this tolerance stacking. Or when we're doing a risk analysis, we call this risk stacking. That's what got Charlie Kirk killed, is risk stacking. They allowed too many risks where between all of the holes that were in, there was a perfect gap for something to run through all of the different pieces of Swiss cheese. This is called risk stacking when you're doing a risk analysis, or when you're manufacturing, if you have a 0.5 ID on like a washer. Right, and it goes on a 0.5 ID or OD chamfer. If you have a plus 0.055 and a 0.057, those may not stack because you have that extra tolerance stacking. In your spiritual life, tolerance stacking is you've allowed one more thing, one more opening, and you're not paying attention. If you're not grounded in the Word, it can be very serious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think I like what you said there. Like, you really need to be in the Word. You need to know what the truth is. I like what that example Mr. Charlie uses, where he says, like, how do people know how to identify a fake dollar bill? They don't study the counterfeits.
They study the original.
Real thing. They know the real thing front and back. They know it inside and out,
That's the critical nature. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. All right, let's look at verse 2 here. When condemnation grips my heart and Satan tempts me to despair, I hear the voice that scatters fear. The great I am, the Lord is here. Oh, praise the one who fights for me and shields my soul eternally.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, definitely not. And I like that in Satan tempts me to despair line, because I think it hits on something that we don't really talk about a lot, which is, and I've asked you this before, we've talked about this. I've asked you multiple times, is it a sin to fear?
Yeah, it's a sin to allow yourself to be gripped with fear. Fear is natural. What you do with it, if you sit there and you fret,
how you act on it, yes.
And if you so anxiety is a symptom of sin. Anxiety is not sin. Just be very. I want to really differentiate that. Anxiety is not sin. Continuous anxiety is a symptom of sin. I'm not saying it is. They're not the same thing. But if you have constant anxiety, you either have a chemical imbalance issue in your body. Go get that looked at. Do what you need to do to get that sorted. But if it is anxiety that is induced for fear over the things of this world, there comes a point where you're just not trusting the Lord. So Satan, that is a temptation.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree. That's something, like I said, I don't think we talk about in church really.
No, and
I'm glad they touched on
to.
it here.
Because some people want to say all anxiety is sin, and all cancer is sin, and if you have gout, it's sin.
You just need more faith.
You just need more faith to be healed. Yeah, because we're so afraid of sounding like that, sometimes we also fail to address it. So yes.
Yeah. All right, and then it goes into the chorus. Boldly I approach your throne, blameless now I'm running home. By your blood I come, welcomed as your own, into the arms of majesty. I think that's a really good chorus right there. I think, first off, by your blood I come, only by Christ's sacrifice, by his power, what he did for us on the cross, I'm able to come, not of my own merit, but what Christ did for us. And also, that first line, boldly I approach. This is one of the things I really loved about Ring Collective in their older days is like at least a decent amount of their songs, like you can clearly tell what scripture they're referencing, what scripture it's based on. This one, I believe it comes from Hebrews 4:16, the verse that says like, what is it? It's like we can, like it's basically what they're saying, like boldly we can approach the throne of grace to find grace to help in time of need. Right?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now. You got to have that ready, bro. You got to have that ready.
No, I'm pretty
so it's
sure
Hebrews
it's Hebrews
4:16.
4:16.
It's Hebrews 4:16. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find
There you
grace
go.
to help in time of need. So yeah,
No, I knew what it was. I
rhymes
just
with
didn't know the verbatim wording. I didn't remember there.
Das is good.
But yeah, well, first off, you need to be in your word, but I would also say that like Christian music, I think it needs to be, it's wonderful when you're verbatim referencing scripture, and it also needs to be clear what scripture you're referencing, I think.
Indeed.
Yeah. Verse 3, behold the bright and risen sun, more beauty than this world has known. I'm face to face with love himself, his perfect, spotless righteousness. 1,000 years, 1,000 tongues are not enough to sing his praise. No
Solid.
problem there.
Solid.
Problem there.
Solid verse. Yeah.
Yeah. Elevating the Lord, focusing on his holiness, how great and sovereign is he. Great. I think this would be a great song to sing in church if it wasn't for that Angels Fear to Tread line.
Yeah,
so far, I think
it's just a little bit messy, but behold the bright and risen sun. The word behold, we kind of lost like the importance of that word. But when behold, that means it's a command to say look at and specifically take in the beauty of the bright and risen sun. I do love that. More beauty than this one has ever known. 1,000 years, 1,000 tongues rhymes with what John said at the end of his gospel.
Oh, I love what he said at the end of his gospel. Yeah. He says something like, and there are many other things Jesus did, and if all of them were written down, the world would not be able to contain all the books that could be written.
Correct.
Oh, I love that.
Correct. So it rhymes with that. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And then last thing here, the bridge. This is the art of celebration, knowing we're free from condemnation. Oh, praise the one who made an end to all my sin. I think that's a good bridge.
It's
not
a great
great
bridge. It's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a little bit focused on the worship, but it's not too bad.
Yeah.
It's a little bit focused on the worship. I don't like centered worship. I like Christ-centered worship.
Right.
So I think if you're gonna, I will praise you. I will get over it and praise me. I just want to I don't think God really sits there tapping his foot and says that, but it's best not to just waste your time saying I will. Just do.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that either. Like just saying over and over again, I will praise you. I will praise you. Well then,
it's weak.
Well then,
just do it.
Yeah, just do it.
Get to it. Get to it.
Like talk about the sovereignty of God, the holiness of God, any aspect of his character. Just stop saying that like 15 times and making every Christian song like 10 minutes long.
Correct.
So
correct. I used to take issue with I Sing the Mighty Power of God. I thought it was a weak song, but then I started listening to more contemporary Christian music, and I was like, oh no, that old hymn is fine. Because it starts with, I sing the mighty power of God that made the mountains rise, spread the flowing seas abroad, and built the lofty skies. I sing the wisdom that ordained the sun to rule the day. And so the more I thought about it, I'd say, okay, I'm being a little bit legalistic. That's fine, because you are actually listing out the beautiful things that God has done.
Mm-hmm.
So
and it's talking about his sovereignty and
over those things.
Over in creation, he created everything. All answers to him.
Yeah.
I love when songs talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's an important thing to do, I think. And folks are... So sometimes we put stuff into worship music that just ought not be in there, and it's just kind of limp-wristed. So make sure you have strong, muscular worships.
Yeah. Also, real quick, I just thought about something. Once again, going back to the Angels Fear to Tread line real quick, we talked about this when I brought it up to you when we went out to eat a couple nights ago. that phrase, it's one of those phrases that I feel like people think is in the Bible.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
Fix your theology. Make sure you're actually quoting the real thing.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ring Collective knew the actual quote or if they thought it was in the Bible.
It's possible.
But
yeah. There are a lot of phrases that become churchiology and not Christianity.
Yeah.
So
It's funny because there's a lot of I've had this multiple times. There've been phrases where I thought it was in the Bible, but it's not. But then there's phrases like I read in the Bible, I'm like, oh, that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Like in Proverbs, I'm like, oh, that's where it came from. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's the song review for today. Are we doing screw tape letters?
Well, we better dive into it right now.
All right, let's go.
Let's get going. So, chapter 29, and if you were just joining us, the screw tape letters, let's go ahead and go into the overview real quick. It is a series of correspondence that C.S. Lewis wrote of what two demons might think about the base temptations of man, and they're talking about a human patient in World War II era Britain. He has recently fallen in love and with a Christian woman, and these screw tape is the mentor, wormwood is the under study, and they are talking about how best to tempt this young man as he is coming closer to Christ. In this chapter, we are going to look at the products of virtue, positive and negative, for the demons and devils of hell. This is a little bit of red team, blue team, and that Lewis is playing here, and the red team being the demons and the blue team being the Christians and God above. We're looking at this through the view of the enemy. So the enemy is writing to his protege, and they're thinking about how best to tempt this man who's recently acquired a beautiful woman into his life as his potential future helpmate. He's courting her, and there's a lot of strife in the world in this moment. This is set during World War II. And so what they're looking at is the issue of cowardice versus bravery, of virtue, how a virtue can also be turned, even bravery can be turned into a weapon of the demonic realm. So we're going to start off in chapter 29. My dear Wormwood, now that it is certain the German humans will bombard your patient's own town and that his duties will keep him in the thick of the danger, we must consider our policy. Are we to aim at cowardice or at courage with consequent pride, or at hatred of the Germans? Well, I'm afraid it is no good to make him brave. Our research department has not yet discovered, though success is hourly expected, how to produce any virtue. This is a serious handicap. To be greatly and effectively wicked, a man needs some virtue. What would Attila have been without his courage, or Shylock without self-denial as regards the flesh? But as we cannot supply these qualities ourselves, we can only use them as supplied by the enemy. And this means leaving him a kind of foothold in those men whom otherwise we have made most securely our own. A very unsatisfactory arrangement, but I trust we shall one day learn to do better. Your characteristics are given by God. How you deal with those is what makes you more a child of heaven or more a child of hell. Let me explain. Hitler was a great man. He had a lot of great gifts. What he did was evil. Watch that get clipped. What he did was evil to the most horrendous degree, but he had a lot of potential. Attila the Hun. What would he have been if without the gift that God had given him of bravery? But he misused it.
That's something my grandfather talked about. One of the books he wrote on spiritual gifts is Hitler had a great gift that he terribly abused.
And so, and this is what Lewis is hacking at right here. Although he's a little bit too close to Hitler at the time to be able to say Hitler has at the moment. That I think this was written after World War II, but only briefly. And there was a question as to whether or not Hitler was actually killed. He probably actually lived in Argentina until recently, where he passed away in peace. It's a sad thing, but a different question. Moving on to the next page.
That little town.
Hatred we can manage. The tension of human nerves during noise, danger, and fatigue makes them prone to any violent emotion, and is only a question of guiding this susceptibility into the right channels. If conscience resists, muddle him. Let him say that he feels hatred not on the behalf, not on his own behalf, but on that of the women and children. And that a Christian is told to forgive his own, not other people's enemies. In other words, let him consider himself sufficiently identified with the women and children to feel hatred on their behalf, but not sufficiently identified to regard their enemies as his own, and therefore proper objects of forgiveness. But hatred is best combined with fear. Cowardice alone of all the vices is purely painful, horrible to anticipate, horrible to feel, horrible to remember. Hatred has its pleasures. It is therefore often the compensation by which a frightened man reimburses himself for the miseries of fear. The more he fears, the more he will hate, and hatred is also a great antidote for shame. To make a deep wound in his charity, you should therefore first defeat his courage. When we are in fear, whenever we are in pain, if we can offload our pain onto someone else and then use that as the proxy, so for hatred. Lewis is saying, I'm not, he's putting into frame this idea, this holier than thou idea. I'm not upset at the Germans because I'm a Christian, but I am angry at them for harming the women and children. No, be honest. You're angry at them for harming you, your country, and your countrymen, all the above. And then deal with that appropriately. Don't hide it behind this fake Christianity. If you do, the demons and devils of hell are mocking you, and they're enjoying this. Fear is unpleasant. Hatred is something that we often use as a form of self-righteousness. We are paying ourselves back. We're saying, this is something that I can take and pleasure for the discomfort that I have felt. Make sure you understand, look at your own heart. Make sure that you're peering into yourself saying, am I being honest with God? Am I being honest with myself? If you're not, this can be very, very indicting. Next slide. Now, this is a ticklish business. We got to watch out what ticklish Mr. Producer is, by the way, ladies, just letting you know. We have made proud men of most vices. We made men proud of most vices. He's looking at me like he's going to kill me. But not of cowardice. Whenever we have almost succeeded in doing so, the enemy permits a war or an earthquake or some other calamity, and at once courage becomes so obviously lovely and important, even in human eyes, that all of our work is undone, and there is still at least one vice of which they feel genuine shame. The danger of inducing cowardice in our patients, therefore, is lest we produce real self-knowledge and self-loathing with the consequent repentance and humility. And in fact, in the last war, thousands of humans, by discovering their own cowardice, discovered the whole moral world for the first time. In peace, we can make many of them ignore good and evil entirely. In danger, the issue is forced upon them in a guise to which even we cannot blind them. There is here a cruel dilemma before us. If we promote injustice and charity among men, we should be playing directly into the enemy's hand. But if we guide them to the opposite behavior, this sooner or later produces, for he permits it to produce, a war or revolution. And the undisguisable issue of cowardice or courage awakes thousands of men from their moral stupor. This indeed is probably one of the enemy's motives for creating a dangerous world, a world in which moral issues really come to the point. He sees as well as you do that courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point, which means at the highest reality. A chastity or honesty or mercy which yields to danger will be chaste and honest or merciful only on conditions. Pilate was merciful till it became risky. It is therefore possible to lose as much as we gain by making your man a coward. He may learn too much about himself. There is, of course, always a chance not of chloroforming the shame, but of aggravating it and producing despair. This would be a great triumph. It would show that he had believed in and accepted the enemy's forgiveness of his other sins only because he himself did not fully feel their sinfulness. That, in respect to one of the vices which he really understands in its full depth of dishonor. He cannot seek nor credit the mercy. But I fear you have already let him get too far into the enemy's school, and he knows that despair is a greater sin than any of the sins which provoke it. As to the actual technique of temptations to cowardice, not much need be said. The main point is that the precautions have a tendency to increase fear. The precautions publicly enjoined on your patient, however, soon become a matter of routine, and this effect disappears. What you must do is to keep running his mind side by side, the conscious intention of doing his duty, the vague idea of all sorts of things he can do or not do inside the framework of duty, which seem to make him a little safer. Get his mind off the simple rule, I've got to stay here and do so-and-so, into a series of imaginary lifelines. If A happened, though I very much hope it won't, I could do B. And if the worst came to the worst, I could always do C. Superstitions, if not recognized as such, can be awakened. The point is to keep him feeling that he has something other than the enemy, encourage the enemy's supplies to fall back on, so that what was intended to be a total commitment to duty becomes honeycombed all through with little unconscious reservations. By building up a series of imaginary expedients to prevent the worst coming to the worst, you may produce, at that level of his will which he is not aware, a determination that the worst shall not come to the worst. Then, at the moment of real terror, rush it out into his nerves and muscles, and you may get the fatal act done before he knows what you're about. For remember, the act of cowardice is all that matters. The emotion of fear is in of itself no sin, and though we enjoy it, does us no good. Your affectionate uncle, Screwtape. Final thoughts for the day. Think about them real quick, gentlemen.
Yes. Just kind of going over that.
You got 10 seconds.
What happened in England with the guy being arrested for hurting someone's feelings. Dude, you need to come over in America and hurt their feelings from here. Right on.
Last night I was reading 2 Timothy chapter 3, and it talks about how in the last days people will be lovers of themselves, lovers of pleasure, not God, and all these things. And just seeing some of the stories we talked about today, wow.
We're
just
in the end times.
Yep.
It's as in the days of Noah. With that said, be faithful this week and make sure that you know the hope in what you believe. Make sure you pursue truth. And with that said, we got nothing else for you. We love you so much. You have a beautiful day.